Hi everyone, welcome into this week's My Weekly CBS Fix. This week's video is dedicated to my brother Levi and his wife Hani upon the birth of a baby boy. Mazel tov, a lot of nachas. This week's video is also dedicated to Eric and Liza Leibovich, also upon the birth of a baby boy. May you also have a lot of nachas. In this week's Parshas Mishpatim, the Torah tells us the different laws between man and fellow man. And the Zohar makes an interesting comment on the first verse. The first verse says, these are the judgments, the rules, the laws that you should put in front of them. And the Zohar, who is the master of Kabbalah, he wrote that these are the order of the reincarnation of souls, where everyone gets their punishment if one is due. So the question is, what is the connection between reincarnation of souls and the basic laws of the Torah? So the great Hasidic master, the Baal Shem Tov, who started Hasidic Judaism, he explains based on the following story. He said there was once a person who was very, very wealthy. He had to go out of town on business and he was going to be away for a long while. And he had a really, really good friend who was a poor man, but a really good friend that he could trust. And he gave a large sum of money to this man to watch for him. And the man had no problem watching it for him. And the man went on his trip. And suddenly the poor man died. And when the poor man's children, his inheritors, came to split whatever inheritance their father may have had, they found hidden away in the house this huge sum of money. And they were instant millionaires overnight. And they couldn't believe it. They thought their father was always so poor. But meanwhile, he was living a hidden life. He was really a rich man. He didn't want to live the high life. But meanwhile, they're now all pumped. They go to a court and they settle everything equally, and they all build huge homes and they're living luxurious lives. Lo and behold, a few months later, this guy comes back. The wealthy man comes back to the town. He's looking for his friend, and he finds out that his friend died. And his inheritors, the poor man's inheritors, found their great wealth that their father had, and now he realized he's out on his money. And he quickly went running to them, and he said, "No, it's really my money." They're like, "We don't know what you're talking about. We didn't hear anything about it. We didn't hear about our father entrusted the money." And so he wanted to take them to court, and the judge made the boys swear, just swear that your father was not entrusted this money. They did, and they got the money. And the man couldn't believe it, and one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov also couldn't believe it. It seems like such a perversion of justice over here. What kind of business is this? And he went to his master and he asked him, can you explain to me what happened over here? So the master said, "Listen, tomorrow morning I want you to do me a favor. Go to a tree right in the forest." He described a big wide tree, and right next to the tree is a spring, is a well. And he says, "I want you to climb that tree tomorrow morning, and I want you to remain hidden out of sight. And no matter what happens, you remain anonymous. Don't let anybody see you. And I just want you to report back to me at the end of the day what you saw." So the next morning he goes, he finds this big, wide, tall tree, and he climbs up. He stays hidden in the branches. Around noontime, when it's pretty hot outside, a merchant comes by, and he sees the spring, the well, and he drinks his fill, he cools himself off, and he sees the tree. He wants to rest. And before he rests, he takes off his money belt, in which he had a lot of money in there, and he takes a rest. And about a half an hour later, he wakes up, realizes it's kind of late, and he jumps onto his horse and he rides away, completely forgetting about his money belt that he left there. A short time later, another merchant comes by. He sees the well, he takes a nice drink, he's ready to lay down by the tree to take a rest, when he sees a money belt, and he couldn't believe his good fortune. He looks around and doesn't see anybody. He walks off happy as can be. A little time later, a poor man comes by. He's got a stick, he's got his tattered clothing on, and he sees the water, and he drinks his fill to satisfy his thirst, and he's also very weary and tired. He sees the tree, nice shady tree he can lay down by, and he lays down there. All of a sudden, sometime later, in the interim, the wealthy guy, the person who left his money belt, realized he left it there, and he quickly rushes back to the tree, and he sees an old man, a poor man over there laying there, and he quickly assumed that this is the guy that took his money, and he says, "You thief, give me back my money." He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I know you took it. You were the only one here." And he starts kicking him and hitting him and brutally beating him. And the guy is swearing his innocence. "I don't know what you're talking about." And finally, the guy realizes he looked all over for it, doesn't have it on him, and he's got no choice. And he finally just leaves, all broken-spirited and downhearted. And the poor man is like barely alive. And he finally is able to gathers some strength to walk away. And the man up in the tree is like flabbergasted with everything that he's seen, but he remained quiet. And at the end of the day, he ran home to his rabbi and he told his rabbi, the Baal Shem Tov, everything that he saw. He said, "Can you explain that?" So he says, "I'll explain it to you. In a previous lifetime, the wealthy guy in his previous lifetime had sworn that money came to him justly when it didn't, and he had lied. And the guy who had found this guy's money belt, he was the guy that had lost the money in that court case based on that swear. And so therefore Hashem arranged everything that the person that lost the money should get the money back, and the person that gained the money should lose the money. And who was the poor? The poor guy was the judge that was kind of criminal in his weak ruling, in that he didn't investigate a little bit more and he just made him swear, and therefore he was deserving to get those punishments. And so the Baal Shem Tov is explaining everything that happened was exactly under Hashem's watch, and everything that happened was supposed to happen. There was no actual perversion of justice at all, and this is exactly the same scenario that happened over here with the rich man and the poor man. Everything that happened, Hashem balanced out the scales. And so therefore that is what the Zohar meant, that these are the judges, meaning each person's reincarnation of souls, they get punished where they're supposed to get punished, and everything has balance. Now, while I'm not one for saying major stories, we can always be infused every once in a while with hearing how Hashem actually does balance the scales, and everything that happens for a reason. And if we think like that, we'll know that we'll be able to sleep better at night. We can always be infused with trusting in Hashem and having emunah. Have a great Shabbos. Thank you for listening.